The most painful words I ever heard didn't come from a business rival or an angry tenant. They came from my own son, Dominic, on Christmas Eve. "Mom," he said, swirling his wine glass while 30 guests watched, "if you want to keep staying here, you need to pay rent or find your own place." His wife, Bianca, smirked. No one stood up for me. They watched the woman who had cooked their turkey and ironed their napkins be humiliated in her own living room. But here is what Dominic didn't know. The luxury penthouse he was standing in, I bought it. The Range Rover he drove, I paid the lease. The 6-figure salary he bragged about, it came from a company I secretly owned. He thought I was a helpless, destitute widow living off his charity. He had no idea that I was the silent CEO of the largest real estate portfolio in Chicago. That night, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply packed my bag and walked out into the snow. And 2 days later, I sent him 3 emails that would turn his entire world into dust. This is the story of how I had to break my son to save him. Before I tell you exactly how I evicted my own child, I want to connect with you. Pause the video right now. Go to the comments and tell me, where are you watching this from? And tell me, at what age do you think a child should stop relying on their parents' money? I'm reading every single comment. Now, let's go back to that Christmas dinner. The penthouse smelled of rosemary and roasted chestnuts. I had been awake since 5 a.m. I had polished the silver, brined the turkey, and hand-peeled 5 pounds of potatoes because Dominic said he liked them lumpy, like Grandma used to make. By 8 p.m., the party was in full swing. The Gold Coast apartment was glittering. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the Chicago skyline, a million lights reflecting off the dark water of Lake Michigan. Dominic stood by the fireplace, wearing a velvet blazer I knew cost $2,000. He was holding court, telling a story to his cousin, Eric. "So, the client says he wants marble floors in the garage." Dominic laughed, loud and confident. And I told him, "Look, quality costs money. That's why you hired me. You have to be firm with these people." "You're killing it, Dom," Eric said, looking around the apartment. "This place is insane. What's the rent on a place like this?" $9,000 a month, Dominic said, taking a sip of his drink. "But hey, you pay for the view, right?" Bianca drifted over, her silk dress rustling. She linked her arm through Dominic's. "Dom works so hard," she purred. "We deserve a little luxury." I was standing in the kitchen doorway, holding a tray of wine glasses. My feet were throbbing. My back ached. "Mom," Dominic called out, snapping his fingers. "We need more ice. The bucket is empty." "I'm on it," I said quietly. "And try to find the good napkins," Bianca added without looking at me. "These paper ones look cheap." My cousin Stephanie touched my arm. "Vivian, sit down. You've been serving them all night. You're not the maid." "It's fine, Steph," Dominic answered for me. "Mom likes to stay busy, right, Mom?" I looked at my son. I saw the arrogance in his jaw. I saw the way he looked through me, not at me. "Right," I said. I fetched the ice, I served the pie, I cleaned the spills. At 10 p.m., after the gifts were opened, Dominic clinked his spoon against his glass. "Everyone," he said, "I have a small announcement." The room went quiet. I wiped my hands on my apron, expecting a toast, maybe a pregnancy announcement. "Actually," Dominic turned to me, "this is for Mom." He smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was a business smile. "Mom, Bianca and I have been talking. We love having you here, truly. But it's been 3 years since Dad died, and frankly, having a roommate is cramping our style." My stomach dropped. "We think it's time you started contributing," Dominic continued. "This apartment costs a fortune. If you want to keep your room, we're going to need $2,500 a month in rent. Or maybe it's time you found a senior living community, something more your speed." The silence in the room was deafening. "Trevor," Grandpa Arthur said from the corner, his voice low, "that is your mother." "I'm being realistic, Grandpa. I pay the bills. I work 60-hour weeks. Why should she get a free ride?" His house, his bills. I felt a cracking sensation in my chest. It was the sound of my heart breaking, but beneath the heartbreak, something else was waking up, the iron will that had built an empire. "You're right," I said. My voice was soft, but it carried across the room. Dominic blinked. "I am?" "Yes." I untied my apron and folded it neatly on the counter. "You are absolutely right. A grown man shouldn't have to support his mother. It's time I stopped taking advantage of your generosity." Mom, don't be dramatic, Bianca rolled her eyes. We aren't kicking you out tonight, just after the holidays. I understand perfectly. I walked past them. I went to the guest room, the small back room without a view, and I pulled my old leather duffel bag from the closet. I packed 3 changes of clothes, my toothbrush, and the framed photo of my late husband, Edward. I walked to the front door. Mom, Dominic called out, looking annoyed. Where are you going? You're embarrassing us. I'm going to find my own place, I said. Merry Christmas, Dominic. I walked out. I heard the door click shut. I heard Bianca say, finally, now we can use that room for a walk-in closet. I took the elevator down 40 floors. The doorman, Henry, saw me. Mrs. Sterling? He asked, surprised. Are you going out? It's snowing. I'm leaving, Henry, I said. Please call me a cab. I didn't go far, just 2 miles north to Lincoln Park, to a small brick apartment building on a quiet street. Dominic didn't know about this place. He thought I was broke. He thought my husband left me with nothing. I unlocked the door to apartment 3B. It was cold. It smelled of old books and dust. I turned on the lamp. It wasn't a luxury penthouse. It was a simple 1-bedroom apartment, but it was filled with filing cabinets. I sat down at the small desk. I looked at the wall. Framed there wasn't art. It was the first dollar Edward and I ever made. People think wealth is loud. They think it's Ferraris and penthouses. Real wealth is quiet. Edward and I started with nothing. We bought a run-down duplex in 1990. We fixed it ourselves. We ate beans and rice for 10 years. We bought another building, then another. Today, Sterling Estates LLC owns 42 apartment complexes, 3 office towers, and, yes, the penthouse my son was currently sleeping in. My portfolio is worth $200 million. Dominic thought I was a charity case. He didn't know that the scholarship that got him through college came from me. He didn't know that the credit card in his wallet, the one he used to buy that velvet jacket, was linked to my private trust. I sat at that desk until the sun came up. I looked at the photo of Dominic as a baby. I failed you, I whispered to the photo. I gave you too much. I protected you from the struggle. And now, you're a monster. I wiped my eyes. But I can fix it. December 26th, the day after Christmas. Most of the city was sleeping in. I was wide awake. I drove my old Ford sedan downtown. I parked in the underground garage of the Sterling Tower, the glass skyscraper on Wacker Drive that bears my name, though Dominic thinks it's just a coincidence. I took the private elevator to the 50th floor. The office was quiet. My CEO, Marcus, was waiting for me. Marcus was the face of the company. He was the one Dominic thought ran the show. Vivian. Marcus stood up. He looked worried. I got your text. Are you sure about this? I sat down at the head of the boardroom table. I've never been more sure, Marcus. He's your son, Marcus said gently. That is exactly why I have to do this. He is 32 years old. He treats people like dirt. He treats me like dirt. If I don't stop him now, he will never learn. Okay, Marcus sighed. He opened his laptop. I have the files ready. We went through them one by one. Item 1, the penthouse lease. Signed by Dominic 3 years ago. Rent, $2,500 per month. Market value, $9,000 per month. Landlord, Sterling Estates LLC. Status, subsidized by Vivian Sterling. Item 2, the vehicle. 2023 Range Rover. Owner, Sterling Estates Corporate Fleet. Authorized driver, Dominic Sterling. Item 3, the credit card. American Express Black Card. Primary account, Vivian Sterling. Authorized user, Dominic Sterling. Balance, $42,000, last month alone. He spent $40,000 last month? I asked, looking at the statement. Dinners, a trip to Cabo, a handbag for Bianca. Marcus read the list. Cancel it, I said. All of it? All of it. Today. Marcus typed. Okay, I'm drafting the termination notices. We will send them as the management. Good, I said. He needs to think this is corporate bureaucracy. He can't know it's me. At 9 a.m. sharp, Marcus's office phone rang. He put it on speaker. This is Dominic Sterling. My son's voice was frantic, panicked. I just got these emails. There must be a mistake. Who is this? "This is Marcus, the Director of Assets," Marcus said calmly. "There is no mistake, Mr. Sterling. The board has reviewed the discretionary spending accounts. We are cutting costs. The Friends and Family Subsidy Program has been discontinued." "You can't do this," Dominic shouted. "I know the owner. I know people. I can't move in 30 days. It's winter." "The contract is clear, sir. You have until January 31st. "But my car, I need my car to get to work." "The car is company property, sir. Actually, the GPS tracker indicates it is currently parked in the loading zone. The tow truck is arriving now." "What?" Dominic screamed. I heard a door slam in the background. I heard him running. Marcus hung up. He looked at me. "That was brutal, Vivian." "It had to be," I said, my voice trembling slightly. I stood up and walked to the window. 40 floors down, on the street below, I saw a tiny figure running out of the apartment building. It was Dominic. He was chasing a tow truck that was dragging his Range Rover away. He looked small. He looked helpless. For the first time in his life, he was facing a problem that he couldn't charm his way out of. At 2 p.m., my personal cell phone rang. It was Dominic. I let it go to voicemail. Then Bianca called. I ignored it. Then Grandpa Arthur called. I answered. "Vivian," Arthur said, "Dominic is here. He's crying. He says he's being targeted. He says his life is falling apart." "I know, Dad," I said. "Did you do this?" "Yes." "Good," Arthur said. "It's about time. Tell him—" I choked back a sob. "Tell him I'm traveling. Tell him I'm out of reach. He needs to figure this out alone." "I'll tell him," Arthur said. "Stay strong, honey." I hung up. I went back to my empty apartment in Lincoln Park. I sat on the cheap sofa. I had stripped my son of everything: his home, his car, his money. Bianca left him 2 days later. As soon as the credit card stopped working, as soon as he realized he was going to be living in a regular apartment, she was gone. She went back to her parents in Florida. Dominic was alone. I wanted to rush in. I wanted to write a check. I wanted to fix it. But I remembered the look on his face at Christmas. Pay rent or get out. "No," I whispered to the empty room. "You wanted to be a man, Dominic? Then be a man." January in Chicago is brutal. The wind off the lake cuts like a knife. For the first time in his life, Dominic felt that wind. He moved out of the Gold Coast penthouse on January 15th. He didn't hire movers. He couldn't afford them. He rented a U-Haul van and moved his boxes himself. He moved into a basement studio in Pilsen. It was a neighborhood of working families, brick walk-ups, and street art. It was real. It was gritty. And the rent was $800 a month. I knew this because I had Marcus, my CEO, hire a private investigator to keep an eye on him, not to interfere, just to ensure he didn't starve. He sold his watch, Marcus told me over the phone one evening in February, and the designer shoes. He got about $4,000. That should cover his rent for a few months. "Has he found a job?" I asked, looking out at the snow piling up on my windowsill. "He's trying. He applied to 3 architecture firms. They all turned him down. Apparently, without the sterling recommendation, his resume is thin." "Good," I said. "He needs to know what his name is worth without my money backing it." I didn't call him. He didn't call me. The silence between a mother and son is a heavy thing. It weighs more than concrete. Every time my phone rang, my heart jumped, but it was never him. He was too proud, and I was too scared that if I heard his voice, I would cave. I would send the check. I would ruin the lesson. March came. The snow melted into gray slush. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to see him. I drove my old Ford down to Pilsen. I parked across the street from the subway station. I pulled my hat down low. At 5:30 p.m., I saw him. Dominic walked up the stairs from the train platform. He looked different. He was thinner. His face had lost that soft, pampered look. He had a beard, not a stylish one, but a scruffy one. He was wearing a heavy canvas jacket and work boots covered in dust. He wasn't an architect. He was a laborer. I watched him stop at a street vendor and buy a tamale. He counted the change in his palm carefully before handing it over. This was the boy who used to order $200 steaks without looking at the price. I watched him walk down the street, head down against the wind, carrying a backpack. He looked tired. He looked lonely, but he walked with a different kind of stride. Solid. I put my head on the steering wheel and wept. I'm sorry, Dom. I'm so sorry. But I didn't get out of the car. I started the engine and drove away. 2 days later, Marcus came to my office. He got a job, Marcus said. A real one, not through us. Where? A non-profit housing developer in Englewood. They build affordable units for low-income families. The pay is, well, it's low, $40,000 a year. That's less than his old clothing budget, I noted. He took it. He starts Monday, project coordinator. Basically, he's managing the construction crews. Englewood, I mused. It was a tough neighborhood, a place that needed real help. Okay, let him work. Let's see if he sticks it out. April turned into May, May into June. Dominic stuck it out. According to the reports, he was the first one on the site at 6 a.m. and the last one to leave. He wasn't barking orders from a trailer, he was carrying lumber. He was learning how buildings were actually made, nail by nail. Then, in July, the opportunity arose. Sterling Estates, my company, was looking to partner with a nonprofit for a tax credit project. We opened bidding for proposals. Marcus showed me the list of applicants. Third on the list, Englewood Community Builders. Project lead, Dominic Sterling. My heart hammered. He doesn't know you own Sterling Estates, Marcus reminded me. He thinks we are just the faceless corporate landlords who evicted him. He's going to pitch to us? He has a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday to ask for funding. I swiveled my chair around to look at the city. Set up the boardroom, I said. I want to be there. Vivian, Marcus warned. If he sees you, if he sees me, he sees me. It's been 7 months, Marcus. It's time to see what kind of man my son has become. Tuesday, 2 p.m. The Sterling Estates boardroom is intimidating. It has a 40-foot mahogany table and windows that look down on the city like the eye of God. I sat at the far end of the table, my back to the window. The light silhouetted me. I wore a sharp gray suit and my reading glasses. I told Marcus to introduce me simply as the chairwoman. The door opened. Dominic walked in. He looked nervous. He was wearing a suit, but it wasn't one of his old Italian ones. It was off the rack, a little loose in the shoulders because he had lost weight. He held a stack of files. Good afternoon, he said. His voice was deeper than I remembered. I'm Dominic Sterling from Englewood Builders. He looked at Marcus. Then he looked down the table and saw me. He froze. His eyes went wide, his mouth opened slightly. Mom? He whispered. The other board members looked confused. Marcus stayed silent. I didn't smile, I didn't stand up to hug him. I adjusted my glasses. Mr. Sterling, I said, my voice professional and cool. You have 20 minutes to pitch your proposal. Please begin. Dominic stared at me. I could see the gears turning in his head. Mom? Here? The chairwoman? For a second, I thought he was going to run. I thought he was going to scream at me for evicting him. But then he took a breath. He straightened his tie. He looked at the folder in his hand. Right, he said. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. He began the pitch, and he was brilliant. He didn't use buzzwords, he didn't brag. He spoke about costs per square foot. He spoke about zoning permits. He spoke about the families who needed these homes. We can build these units for $80,000 each, Dominic said, pointing to a blueprint. I've sourced recycled brick from the demolition on 5th Street. It cuts material costs by 20%. And the timeline? I asked, testing him. 18 months. But if we get the funding today, I can have crews on the ground by Monday. I know these guys. They want to work. He knew the numbers. He knew the people. He wasn't the boy who asked for more ice at the party. He was a leader. When he finished, the room was silent. Thank you, Marcus said. We will consider it. Dominic started to pack up his things. He looked at me one last time. There was no anger in his eyes, just curiosity and maybe a little bit of awe. Mr. Sterling, I said. He stopped. One question. Why this project? You used to design luxury condos. Dominic looked at his hands, rough, calloused. I learned something this year, he said quietly. I learned that a penthouse isn't a home. A home is a place that keeps you safe when the world gets cold, and everyone deserves that, even people who can't pay $9,000 a month. He looked me in the eye. I lost my way for a while. I thought success was what you owned. Now I know it's what you build. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. I quickly wiped it away. Thank you, Mr. Sterling, I said. We will be in touch. He nodded and walked out. As soon as the door closed, I looked at the board members. Approve it, I said. The whole $8 million? Marcus asked. Every penny, I said, and put a clause in the contract. Dominic Sterling must remain the project lead. No one else touches this. I went home that night and sat in my apartment. I felt lighter than I had in years. I wanted to call him, but I knew the final test was coming. August arrived. The heat in Chicago was stifling. I was at the office reviewing the contracts when my chest tightened. It felt like a band of iron crushing my ribs. My left arm went numb. I tried to stand up, but my legs gave out. I hit the floor. "Marcus," I gasped. The last thing I saw was the ceiling spinning as the paramedics rushed in. I woke up to the sound of beeping machines. I was in a hospital room. It was dark. My chest felt bruised. Heart attack, my brain registered. Stress. Age. I tried to move my hand, but it was being held. I looked down. Dominic was sleeping in the chair next to my bed. He was still wearing his work clothes, dusty jeans and a flannel shirt. He was holding my hand with both of his. "Dom?" I croaked. His head snapped up. His eyes were red-rimmed. "Mom!" He stood up, leaning over me. "Oh God, Mom, you're awake!" "You came?" I whispered. "Of course I came," he said, tears spilling over. "Marcus called me. I ran all the way from the train." He squeezed my hand. "Mom, Marcus told me. He told me everything." I closed my eyes. He wasn't supposed to. "Dominic told me you own Sterling Estates," he said. "He told me you owned the penthouse. He told me you sent the eviction emails." I braced myself for the anger. I braced myself for him to scream at me for ruining his life. Instead, Dominic lowered his forehead onto my hand. "Thank you," he sobbed. I blinked. "Thank you?" "You saved me," he whispered. "I was a monster, Mom. I was an arrogant, useless leech. If you hadn't kicked me out, if you hadn't forced me to hit rock bottom, I would have never become a man." He looked up at me. "I love my life now," he said. "I love my job, I love who I am, and I know I owe it all to you. You loved me enough to hurt me." I reached up and touched his face. The beard scratched my palm. It felt real. "I'm proud of you, Dominic. So proud." December 24th. I was back in my apartment in Lincoln Park, not the penthouse. I sold the penthouse. It was too big, too empty. The doorbell rang. It was Dominic. He was holding a pizza box and a cheap bottle of wine. "Merry Christmas, Mom," he smiled. "Merry Christmas, Dom." We sat on my small couch. We ate pepperoni pizza from paper plates. We watched It's a Wonderful Life. "I have something for you," Dominic said. He pulled an envelope out of his jacket. "What is this?" "Open it." Inside was a check, $24,000. "It took me all year," Dominic said. "I saved every bonus. I worked weekends. It's the back rent for the penthouse, for the year I lived there without paying." I looked at the check. It was a lot of money for a project manager. It was sacrifice. I stood up. I walked to the fireplace. "Mom?" I threw the check into the fire. "Mom, that was 24 grand." I sat back down and took his hand. "Dominic," I said, "I have $200 million in the bank. I don't need your money." I smiled at him. I needed my son back, and now I have him. That is the only payment I ever wanted. We watched the check burn. It turned to ash, floating up the chimney. My son hugged me. It wasn't the polite hug of a socialite. It was the tight, desperate hug of a man who knows what matters. I looked at the photo of Edward on the wall. He was smiling. "We did it, Edward. We built the empire, and then we built the man to run it." This is Vivian Sterling. It took a heart attack and a year of silence to fix my family. But looking at my son now, building homes for people who need them, it was worth every tear. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe to Granny Archive Stories. And I have a question for you parents out there. Is there a lesson you are scared to teach your child because you know it will hurt them? Tell me in the comments. Be brave. Sometimes love requires a little bit of tough love.